Hello and welcome back to the Wheel Talk podcast. My name is Abby Mickey and I'm here with friends to talk about women's professional road cycling. Today, we've got a lot on tap. Opening weekend, Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. We're going to talk a bit about Omloop Van Het Hageland and La Semaine. It's the original crew today. Gracie Elvin, hello.
Hello. Always good to be here with the OGs.
Loren Rowney.
G'day, everyone. Yeah, happy to be here. It's sunny and beautiful in Belgium, unlike what it was on Saturday. But I'm really hopeful because Abby is coming. We're going to have a sunny Flanders in about a month.
Oh, that'd be so nice because the outfit that I have picked out, actually I'm more invested in Paris-Roubaix having good weather because I have like the perfect fit for it.
I'm thinking
looking forward
cobbles.
to that.
Like I could probably throw a sweater on top, but I would prefer that I don't have to because it's a little set, like a little top pants set, you know?
Cute.
What about like gumboots? Would it be a gumboot good outfit?
Yeah, it's crop. They're crop pants. So it would work. And we know I love a fit. Actually, to like pull the curtain back a little bit, we did already do the introduction once and had to restart. So I need to shout out Lauren's shirt again because it's so good. So Loren, can you once again show us your shirt and explain to us?
It is the Women's Sports Fan Club. So if you're Australian, definitely try and get your hands on one. It's supporting the Female Athlete Project, which is also media and a podcast by two ex-athletes. And I love their merchandise, and I think this T-shirt is one of my favorites. Usually I would have to describe things, but now that we're doing visual, it's just a really nice cream shirt with sort of dark green lettering and a chair. Like a typical, how would you describe it, Gracie, in Australia? Like a...
prop up in the grass and have a seat.
Like I imagine at the cricket or something, one of those chairs. So it's definitely a favorite. I'm trying to collect more memorabilia to do with women's sport. So
I need to get you the shirt I got from a running race last summer. It says, "I'm here for the women's race." It's really good.
I feel like there's so much good merch in the US, but it's a pain in the ass.
It was in Europe.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who made it, but it's another like group of women supporting women's sports. And I think they do mostly like trail running. They're mostly trail running adjacent. And I got it I discovered it through Caitlin Fielder.
Mm-hmm.
The trail, she's like an incredible trail runner, but also cycling world adjacent.
Okay.
She was wearing one and I was like, oh, I need that shirt as well.
Well, guys,
Caitlin Fielder would make a good T-shirt.
God, she would.
We should get her to make our merch.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
I was about to get there. Like, this is the perfect time, the start of the podcast. People are like really listening. They haven't tuned out. We want to get merch made. We want to make a T-shirt that says, "We're here with friends," and we need someone who can design it.
With our new catchphrase, my new favorite catchphrase ever, thanks to Kate from Zwift, the best wheel to follow. Wheel Talk Podcast, the best wheel to follow.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Oh,
Let's get multiple T-shirts made. My friend who works in
like having a choice.
He said whenever he goes to a gig, because he's a drummer in a band, he's like, there's always multiple shirts you can buy at a gig, and it's like limited edition for that tour or that gig. And he's like, you need to have like 3 versions of your podcast shirt that people can buy. And I was like, I love it, Nick. He's also a graphic designer. He did not opt to design it. He's like, I don't know enough about your podcast, Women's Cycling. I would not do it justice. He's like, put a call out to your fans. And I was like, we will do that at the start of the podcast.
Well, the people want the merch. The people are asking, and we're going to make it happen. I don't know when, but it will happen. I promise. All right. Let's talk women's cycling. We had a huge weekend of racing this weekend. And it all started with Omloop Nieuwsblad. They dropped the Het this year, so this year was just Omloop Nieuwsblad, which sounds quite weird, but it was a fantastic race. We had a breakaway off the front, but in the end, it would all come down to the favorites, thanks to some incredible teamwork from Franzi Koch of FDJ United-Suez, a new signing for them, who I think we'll be talking about a lot this year. Demi Vollering put in a huge effort on the Muur Kapelbuur and broke away with Kasia Niewiadoma-Phinney. The two of them rode to the finish line, cooperating quite well together, I thought. For a little bit, I was like, man, there's no way these two are going to work together. The rivalry forming between the two of them is pretty easy to see on the road, but they did end up riding together, and they gained a pretty good amount of time, sprinted for the win, and Demi took that victory from Kasia. It's her third time on the podium. She's finished second, third, and now won. And if we remember last year, she quote won the bunch sprint for third, or the reduced sprint for third, with the two riders off the front who'd been in that early break that gained like 14 minutes and won the race. So it was a bit of redemption for Demi to take this victory and to kind of continue the phenomenal start to the season that she's having. But overall, I think a great introduction to the classics that we have coming up, and an incredible start for FDJ United-Suez, who can only be happy with the entire run of racing that they had, from Xavi being in the break and all the attacks that she had, like putting her in the position to win if things had shaken out differently, taking all the pressure off of Demi and the group behind. And then, that effort, I will never get over that effort from Franzi to put Demi in the right position going into the climb, the most crucial climb on course. And I think also one of the key factors in the race was the Muur-Kapel-Muur-Bosberg combo that really made the finale a lot more challenging than years past. So what did you guys think? What do you think? What do you think of the race?
I think huge weekend. We got to see, I think, the last 30 something kilometers, which so much of the race, it would have been good to see. But actually, there was a really key moment that happened just before the Muur. And Gracie, you must know the run into this climb quite well. They've done it different ways, but it's really fast. It's on that big road. People are getting nervous at that point, because once you're at that point of the race, you realize you're really at that pointy end. And it's going to be a super decisive moment what happens there. Like, the break was always going to come back on that climb. And there was a big crash, and it happened pretty much near the front and took out some key riders, some riders that we had picked to have a good day. Zoe Backstead, unfortunately, couldn't come back from that crash and make it back to the front group. Consoni went down with her. Swinkles was another one. And so was Lotte Kopecky, which was a huge blow for SD Works. Of course, they had Wiebers there. But as we know from the end result, she wasn't able to follow those top, let's say, climbers over the climb of the Muur. So that was a pretty defining moment and caused a lot of chaos there. Kopecky, never made it back either. And then I just want to say notable mention to AG Insurance Sudal, Letizia Borghese. She was able to follow that initial move from Demi Vollering and Francie Koch, but it was just a bit too much, I think, over the top. Kasia started really far back, so I think we should talk about her and her ride. In the footage, you can see that there's a gap, and she actually has to do an enormous effort to close it, to be able to go over the top with Demi. You can see she's clearly struggling on that descent to hold the wheel and try and catch her breath before she starts doing turns with Demi all the way towards the finish.
Yeah, I don't know if I've got much more to add, Loren. That was some really good points that you've raised. As we talked in the preview, it's a tough race. Like, they did a number of climbs before getting to the final two with the Muur and Bosberg. So it was already a relatively reduced peloton, but it was still a sizable group. As you said, that crash happened, but there was still quite a lot of riders coming into Gerasbergen. And when they put the hammer down, and as you've both have said, Franzi Koch, she's just did an incredible ride there. I think that's the perfect teamwork if you've got a rider like Demi to support going into that kind of climb. It's cool to see. And even though Demi's now coming into her second season with FDJ, like last year they were a really strong team, but this year you can see they've just leveled up just that little bit more again. And it's not just about her. For sure, she's their star rider and the one that they're going to be relying on to win. But boy, they've got some depth of talent and strength to support that. And we, of course, have seen that they can get results without her as well. So it's exciting seeing this team that we, have spoken about quite a lot over the years, but it's just been this really nice build. Like we've talked about this a few times now, but they're doing some good things there in that squad, and to see that kind of teamwork throughout the race, and particularly in that pointy end, is impressive. Great signs for Kasia. Like, I don't know if we've really seen her this sharp, maybe at this point of time in the spring, because we really see her shine in the back end of the spring in the Ardennes. So yeah, I think good signs. Like I think in the past you might say, oh, is she peaking too early? But I feel like riders are getting managed a lot better now across the board with their training, their peaks, their nutrition as well, which is probably one of the major factors, their mental approaches and their mental recovery as well. So I think it's mostly a good sign that we're seeing her in some good form, able to match those hits from FDJ and from Demi. So that's pretty exciting to see what she can do from now and how she can carry it all the way to the Ardennes. So it's still a long ways to go from now, but I think something else that we've mentioned a number of times, if you're not firing on most of your cylinders at opening weekend, it's really hard to play catch up then. So you kind of do need to be on your A game, or at least A minus game. So really good signs for Kasia there. Yeah, I don't know if I had much more to add for this race. I think that there's riders we probably didn't get to see a lot of because of poor positioning from the crashes. So I think we have some big takeaways from this race, but we still don't have 100% of the picture of maybe the top 20 or 30 in the peloton. There's always going to be some bad luck in the spring classics.
Yeah, I think like the whole race kind of came down to the mirror with the attack from Demi and the effort from Franzi, and like Loren pointed out, the effort from Niewiadoma to get up to that group. Like there was separation when Franzi and Demi caught the back of the break of 4 that was up the road. There was clear separation between those two FDJ United-Suez riders and the rest of the peloton, and Kasia had to make that jump by herself, and she was like 15 riders back at the base of that climb. And I think a huge part of that was that crash that happened in the run into the climb. There was a bunch of Canyon SRAMs onto crypto riders that went down in that crash. And so Kasia was really isolated at that point. So it's just really poor luck, which is such a huge part of the spring classics. It was good to see that not many riders were injured in that climb. There was a couple broken collarbones. No World Tour riders were significantly injured, which the men can't say the same. Their crashes were just horrendous this weekend. So I think in terms of that, we came out of the weekend pretty good. It's just it's always such a scary factor of the classics is the injuries that can come out of each race. So really glad not to see any significant injuries there. I think one of the biggest things for me, another like team impacted by the crash, was SC Works Pro Time, obviously, but they are usually so well positioned that they wouldn't have been part of this crash normally, like in a normal year. It did happen pretty far up in the peloton, but still, like, they're a team that has traditionally completely controlled every single race and been on the front foot and have never been impacted by those crashes because they're too far up the group to really have that be a problem. And when we, like, after the climb had happened and the groups kind of shook out and before the chase swelled in numbers, there was not a single SC Works Pro Time rider present. And finally, Wiebes and Anna van der Breggen were able to bridge up to that group. But van der Breggen, I think I'm really curious where her fitness is at this point, because it seems after UAE tour and after this weekend that she might not be where she wants to be at this point in the season. And I think I was expecting her to come into the classics with a lot more form based on how she finished the 2025 season. Her her run at Worlds, the podium in the time trial, her form all basically from the tour on was just more of what I think I was expecting to see from her early in the year. So I thought she would come into the beginning of this season with that same form and then build on it. So I was a little interested to see that, you know, she was putting in a ton of work for Wiebes, but even like on the Bosberg, she got popped from that group. And she got back on, but that's not the Van de Breggen that I would have thought would come into the classics. So for SD Worx Pro Time, like their main, obviously they're in a bit of a similar position to last year where they have Wiebes who like 9 times out of 10 can win a race. Especially like the way that she was climbing, the way that she finished off Omloop was really, I mean, just a classic Wiebes finish. Like she's just getting better and better. But we don't know where Kopecky is because she was caught up behind that crash, had to change bikes. So she's still a huge question mark for me. And I think she's on good form, and that was just an unfortunate situation for her. But we still don't know. And for Anna van der Breggen, she's just not where she needs to be. So for SD Worx Pro Time, I'm curious to see how they're going to go in Strade, which is a race that traditionally they've done quite well in. But it's interesting to me how much the pendulum has swung away from them in already the first classic. And we've got, you know, AG Insurance Sudal had an incredible race. They were all over the front. When SD Worx Pro Time had a lead out train going into the climbs, in the tail end of the race, AG Insurance Sudal was right there, neck and neck with them, ready to fight. And for a team that doesn't have a clear leader in a race like this, it was really cool. And I think Sherry Busse is really promising in these races. And she's one that we don't really know where she is in terms of like where she stacks in the peloton because of her time spent out of the peloton. But I think this would have been a promising result for her to finish off strong. And I think like overall, yeah, it was like Gracie said, like there was a lot that we learned this weekend, but because of where that crash happened, that put so many people out of position that we would have seen feature in the finale. The like real takeaway is just like FDJ United-Suez is making a bid for the top team in the sport and doing quite well at that. Vollering is just on another level. Like the difference between her riding to the finish and Kasia riding to the finish was like 2 totally different days. And I mean, like Loren said last week, Kasia just has no ability to hide her suffer. And she was suffering really hard. And Demi just looked like she was nose breathing. And yeah, really just like snapshots of very different days out there for every team, which made for just a really, really interesting race.
I think I said to you guys, I don't know if it was your group or another group of cycling friends. It was a funny meme on
Excuse me?
No,
Another group of cycling friends?
A cycling friend on Instagram that I send a lot of cycling stuff, and he can speak Dutch as well. So it was sports, and it was basically this funny clip of an old TV show. And the sentiment was that like every team except FDJ and Mathieu van der Poel's team is sitting there saying, yeah, like, well, give me 14 days to think about what happened and I'll get back to you with what happened, sort of thing. That's basically essentially what it was. It's just really funny, but really good points, Abby. I think for SD Worx Pro Time, yeah, we don't know with Lotta. At least we can say that she came off the Europeans with really good form. She's happy. I think we will see the Lotta of times before, so the 2024 Lotta. But as to Anna van der Breggen, I feel SD Worx has a really strong classics team. And we will see that team come together, and the heart of that classics team is Lotta and Wiebes. So those are their 2 cards that they play. They do have other riders that can do incredible things. Let's not forget Misha Breedewald, for example, who, given the opportunity, if she goes in one of those moves as a satellite rider and it does succeed, or she does make it to that front group, can be a winner at the end. So I think we'll see more. But for Anna, her role within the classics, I think, very much is in that just building stage. We've got to remember this is her second year back in the peloton. I'm sure they've had long conversations over the winter of how they're going to approach the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, because I still think that will be her big focus. We have to also remember she's won a lot of these races. So for her, she probably wants to tick off, the races she hasn't won. And that's kind of what Lotta Kopecky said in an interview before this race for herself. She's won a lot of races. It would be very nice to win a race like Omloop again. But of course, she still has other boxes she wants to tick, like Milan-San Remo. And I think it'd be very much the same for such an accomplished rider like Anna. So, with the spacing of the tours now, I think there's going to be lots of opportunities for her to shine. And she is very much, in my opinion, still that key GC rider along Ninka Vinka, who is probably there for support and development.
I was going to say a lot of the same things in that you would expect Anna van der Breggen to be going a little bit better now, but it's also not that worrying because I would expect her to still really be targeting the Tour. She still hasn't really said directly that that's like a huge goal of hers, but like, of course it is. Why would you come back from retirement when you've won almost everything in your career and not want to add that to your list? So I think, she's keeping the powder dry a little bit. I'm sure she probably would like to go a little bit better right now, but at the end of the day, I'd say that's her number one goal and the team's number one goal, and completely agree as well with Loren in that, they've got Lotta and Lorena, so you don't really need a third. You just need a good support. So I think that they'll get their shit together pretty quickly.
I mean, if SC Works Pro Time wants to make a bid at the Tour, they need Anna van der Breggen to be on form for the Tour. They don't really have another rider on the team that can pull off a win against the other women that are going for a Tour win. So that makes absolute sense that she would be biding her time. I think that women's cycling is in such an interesting place where you have riders who are obviously also going to make bids for the Tour, like Demi and Kasia, already flying. And I'd be a little bit worried that Van der Breggen is taking a more old school approach to peaking, because I think the way that the sport is now, like Kasia, for example, like this is the best we've seen her on opening weekend. That effort that she made to bridge up, the way she rode to the finish with Demi, like she has never been this strong for opening weekend before. And I think she is a rider who is only going to get stronger as she races more and only going to get more confident as she races more. So the way that she rode this weekend, if she can keep that going for Strade and she can keep that going into the Ardennes, like we're going to see a Kasia Niewiadoma that we've never seen before riding into the Ardennes and riding into the tours this summer, which is really, really exciting because she's like, no matter where she finishes, she's an exciting rider to watch, and she's a fan favorite for a reason. So for me, watching her race this weekend, I was blown away with how well she raced. I think Vollering, we expected her to win. We expected her to do what she did. Kasia, like I didn't have her down for what she did this weekend. It was amazing. I'm so excited. So it's hard not to compare riders like Demi and Kasia to Van der Breggen, even if it is only her second season back, because they will have similar goals.
I think it's also a good opportunity to just highlight some of those spectacular performances because I don't want to miss some of them. Again, another fantastic ride from Kat Ferguson to take fourth. So second in the bunch sprint there at the end. Millie Cousins, also really strong ride. I think that group that was away had a fantastic day too. Elise Shabby, we don't need to talk about her, but the young rider from Uno X, I do want to spotlight and also say that we should keep an eye on her this season because I think she could be a breakout rider. She's only 19 years old, but Camila Acebo had an incredible day in that break and then still managed to roll 12th there at the finish. Another great ride by Gasparini. I already mentioned Letizia Borghese. I think great move to go to AG. She's going to bolster that squad during these classics as well as the Ardennes. And then, good to see Shari Bussard up there mixing it again. I think we're going to see big things from her as well.
And Nina Burton to be in that move from Elise Chabbey and then to finish off with 9th on the day was really, really incredible. And I feel like she's a rider who's kind of like been around for a little bit. Like she was on Ceratizit WNT 2023, 2024, and then made the move to EF last year. And I feel like I thought she was older, but she's only 24. Like she's actually got a whole career ahead of her. So to get 9th in Omloop and to be up there when that move went, there is a world where that move from Chabbey was the winning move, you know? Like it was a really strong move, and there was enough hesitation in the group behind where there was a moment when I was like, okay, I mean, this could be it. This could be the winning move. And when you make a move that late in the race, I think like it, and with such strong riders and with a rider like Chabbey, like you always have the potential to go to the line. And for her, that was, to be there in the first place was a win in and of itself. And then to finish off in 9th was really, really strong.
Segway.
UAE Team ADQ did not have the race that they wanted at Omloop, but they had a very good next 2 days of racing. With Omloop, Van Het Hageland was the next day. Not a World Tour race, but normally we see a lot of crossover between the two races. And this year there was a really strong breakaway that I thought had a pretty good chance of making it to the line, with Martelot, Caroline Swinkles of UAE-ADQ, Flora Perkins. The three of them, they looked really, really strong, and it was a little Trek doing the bulk of the chasing to try to bring things back together for Elisa Balsamo. But it came down to a sprint, and Charlotte Kool took her first win since winning a stage of the Baloise Ladies Tour last year before her crash, and her first win for Fenix Premier Tech since making that move at the end of last year. So a huge win for Kool. I think like a big boost to her confidence. She's a rider who has had setback after setback since winning those 2 Tour de France stages in 2024, and had not a really rough season last year. And then what made that surprise transfer to Phoenix Premier Tech before the season even ended last year. And has kind of been on the back foot a bit when it comes to the sprints. And even at UAE Tour, she was really nowhere to be seen in those sprints. So even though she wasn't sprinting against her main rival, Lorena Wiebes, it was still a big win for Kool, I think. And to take the win over Laura Gillespie, which is where my initial segue was going, who's really making a name for herself as being the sprinter to watch for the remainder of the season. Someone who might be able to contest Lorena Wiebes if she just keeps ticking away like she has been. A great finish to Omloop Van Het Hageland and a good continuation of the racing on Saturday, I thought.
Yeah, look, it's not, the race itself is not as hard as Newsblood, but it's like you said, there's a lot of crossover. So there's probably at least half the peloton that did race the day before. So they've got tired legs. But even if you're fresh, this course, it doesn't look that hard on paper, but it does get to you. There's a few climbs that really just kind of take it out of you, especially near the end of the race, because you're usually doing some larger laps. The cobbled section is not as hard as some of the other Flanders cobbles, but it can still catch you out. And it's just a nervous race. There's a lot of dangerous gutters. There's the big crack in the middle of the road, the doom line, the death valley, whatever you want to call it. That there was a couple of crashes this year, some nasty ones. So you really have to just be focused all day. Sometimes there's a bit of wind. There's often wet corners, even if it hasn't rained, it's just out in the fields. So it's just, I never loved this race, especially because we always race the day before, and that was the big one of the weekend. But this always felt like a bit of a nothing race, but so hard. And so to win here is difficult. It's not given easily because it's not a World Tour race. And the finish is not technical, but it's still tricky. It's a bit of an uphill drag. So it's a great show of where Charlotte Kool is in her in her form and in her mental approach to the race, to get that timing right and to be physically good enough to sprint on that uphill drag at the end of a pretty tough day. So I think, she'll be, my guess is her over the biggest emotion she'll have is a bit of relief, just to think, okay, I got this, I can do it, because I'm sure she was starting to lose that confidence in herself. And am I over my peak of my career, or am I playing catch up too much? Can I ever get back? I'm sure she was over the moon, but I'm sure that a big emotion for her was that relief. So once it's sunk in, I'm thinking that she'll start to, take up a bit more space again and build that confidence. But there were some other cool performances that day, so I'm sure we've got a few more people that we'd like to talk about.
I think just on the Charlotta note, before we move on, it's some really great points you made there, Gracie. And now that the peloton is shifting south to the Italian races and everything, there are still some races coming up in Belgium over the period of March. Not World Tour races, but to the point about getting that confidence again. And, winning helps winning. So for her, I think Phoenix, they're really smart, and I guess they are. They're going to line her up at those races, give her opportunities and support that she can start winning. So then when she does come up against Lorena Wiebes again, and we do have a stacked field, I'm thinking the great race here they're going to have in Bruges, no longer Bruges de Panne, that's got to be a major target for her to try and go for that first World Tour win.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think that we're not going to see her again in a World Tour race until after can I call them the Holy Trinity, the three Italian races, Strade, Binda, and Milan-San Remo? I like that. I like that. I thought of that joke earlier and I was like, ha ha ha. So
I love that.
The Holy Trinity of Italian races. I assume we'll see her at Nocera Course, but that's a 1 point pro. So I think she's going to take this win. She's going to take a step back, race where she feels comfortable. There's a 1 point pro in Belgium on the 11th that I can't pronounce the name of, but it used to be called something else. It's the Oettigen, presented by Lotto. Yeah, that one. I think we'll see her there, and Nocera Course. And then, I think Bruges de Panne will be her next big target, because that will be the race where she'll be able to really test herself against Wiebes and against Gillespie, who went from crashing in Omloop Nieuwsblad, getting second in Omloop Van Het Hageland, and then won La Semaine on Monday. Finally taking a win, and it's not a World Tour race. It's a 1 point pro, 1.1, but it all circles back to confidence. And for her, it's her first big win with UAE Team ADQ, but it's also, she didn't win it in a group sprint. I think the way that she won the race was really interesting. They made a split early in the race with her teammate Eleanor Backstead was in there, and the formation of that group, there was no one that was going to challenge her. So I think the thing about the way that the Laura Gillespie won Les Semaines, I think she would have won anyway if it come down to a group, but they put her on the front foot from the beginning, which was really, really smart. Just took most of the factors out of play to put her in front of the race. And I think we will see in the races coming up. I would assume that she would be at Binda and San Remo for sure. And I think this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about this week, is how interesting it will be to see some of the calendars and some of the bigger names. We talked about it last week, the fact that a lot of the bigger names are picking and choosing which races they're doing. But now, since we recorded last week, there's been a couple big name riders who have released their spring calendars. And it opens the door even more for riders like Gillespie to really shine this spring.
Yeah, agreed. And let's not forget that was 3 big days of racing. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first year they've been back to back? Because normally,
Yeah, La Semaine is normally on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I was very bummed that it was on the Monday, because not only did that mean that the peloton wasn't as stacked as we normally see it. Like, normally this race is a pretty big race for being a 1.1, but because it was back to back to back, and yeah, there was no rest between the 3 races, I think we saw a pared down peloton and also a number of very tired riders, which makes Gillespie's win even more impressive, I think. Like, she just looks so strong. And when she did open up her sprint, like, no one in that group could even come close to challenging her. But yeah, it's interesting that they changed the date. I don't like it.
Yeah, because the men raced today, and I thought previously they raced on the same day, so they made that decision. Like you said, Abby, that's a huge 3 days. Great to have 3 days of racing in the same country, so teams, can take advantage of the fact that they're here now before a lot of the racing moves, like I mentioned, down south for the Trinity. But yeah, it would have taken a huge toll. And I think we should also give a shout out to the incredible ride by Eleanor Backstead. She was so strong. That was also a big 3-day block for her. She's going to be instrumental, I think, in all these coming races for UAE ADQ.
One of the best domestiques in the peloton.
Oh, yeah. She's like a Loretta Hansen.
Yeah.
I have done La Semaine before a few times, and it is a nice race. I would prefer it to Hageland. I feel for the riders who had to do 3 days in a row, or maybe some of them just 2. But yeah, my first thought was probably a men's cycling thing that made them move. But the second reason, which might be a bit more positive, is that a lot of teams would still skip Semaine in more modern times because of just the logistics of getting all of the team trucks down to Italy for Strade after the opening weekend. So this might have actually just been a bit of feedback given by the women's teams that don't have 2 trucks or 2 buses, or they're just running that one team of vehicles and staff that they want to get down to Italy, but they still want that extra race. So I don't know. I could just be assuming that, but that just popped into my mind because I remember that we stopped going to Semaine because of Strade coming onto the calendar.
That's a great point, Gracie. And Strade is very much a race that teams like to recon a few days before, right? And it falls on a Saturday, so it's even a bit closer.
Well, we can kind of transition into a talking point that I wanted before we talk about Strade to come. One of the things that I had pitched for the podcast this week is a follow-up on an article that I wrote last week, which is storylines that we're following this spring. I was very proud of myself. When I wrote this article, I compared the spring classics to your favorite book series, and every single race is a different book in the series. So there's like underarching themes that run through the whole spring classics, even if the story on the day is different every time. And I think we've touched a little bit on a couple of the themes that I had kind of flagged as storylines to watch this spring. SC Works Pro Time, whether or not they can stay on top as the top classics team, how much Lotte Kopecky and Lorena Wiebes will play into that role that the Dutch team has really carved out for themselves for the last, over 10 years. How many different teams can win throughout the classics is one thing that I really want to watch. We had so many different teams on the top step last year with, Wiebes had that string of 3 races that she won back to back, but we had, Puck Pieterse winning Flesh, which put Phoenix Akunik on the board. We had wins from so many different riders, and I think it just made for a really exciting spring. So what teams can we see win this year? Is UAE Team ADQ going to get put into play this weekend at Strade with Elise Longo-Borghini? And like what role San Remo is going to play in the spring, because it's still a new race. Riders are still kind of figuring out how to race it, how to win it. And I think the fact that we didn't see Marianne Vos racing Omloop this weekend. She was at altitude instead, but will be going down for Strade this weekend, and then I think doing the trinity of races. San Remo is one of the 2 races on the spring calendar with Paris-Roubaix Femme that she hasn't won. So what will that do for the peloton? What other riders are going to take that? In the whole vein of this conversation about storylines, is the fact that a couple of the top riders, as I mentioned a little bit ago, have released their calendars for the spring. And there was some interesting things that I noticed. Pauline has like a very thin calendar. Strade Flanders, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Vuelta Tour, WP. What's WP?
Walser Pales.
Interesting.
It's that midweek one.
Yeah. It's like it was Brabant's Appeal before.
Yeah, it is, but it's a different way to say it.
Got it. Okay. So not even a World Tour race, or is it World Tour this year?
No, I double checked. It's not. It's probably a 1 Point Pro if I had to guess. Really good race.
That's so interesting that she has that in there, but she's not doing like Flèche Wallonne, which she's won in the past. Yeah, and it's such a sparse calendar. I mean, only 4 one-days throughout the whole spring, and then Vuelta Tour. There's nothing in between, and there's always a chance that she'll jump into something. But I found that really fascinating, especially no Paris-Roubaix Femme, no San Remo, and those are 2 races that you would think she would race to support Voss, for example. But yeah, not down for either of those races. Demi Strade Dwars, which is now a World Tour race, Flanders, and then all 3 Ardennes, Giro Swiss Tour Worlds, which I think 2 years ago we would have thought that was a sparse calendar. But if you compare Demi to Pauline, and they both have the same target in the end, which is the Tour, then it's really interesting to compare the 2, and then to compare the 2 of them to Kopecky. Kopecky's like, give me all of them. I'll take all of them. Strade, Binda, Noker, of course, San Remo, Dwars, Flanders, Paris-Roubaix, the Track Nations Cup in Hong Kong before she comes back for Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and then the Vuelta. She just wants to race her bike, Kopecky.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I don't know if it was you, Gracie, who made the point last week that some riders just love to race and they need to race, and that's important for them. And I think that's for Kopecky. Like, this year is about, finding that love and happiness again on and off the bike, enjoying the races, just going out there and having fun and, really throwing it down. And then I guess after that huge block that she has, which she knows herself and she feels capable to do this, she's going to have a nice break before then she goes to the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift to help the team and to stage hunt, basically.
You can also look at where riders base themselves or live. Maybe people that live in more mountainous, beautiful places race less, and riders that live in Belgium race more.
Yes. Any opportunity not to have to train in the fields, as you can see in my beautiful background.
Yeah, just a thought.
Thank you. What do they say? You're on the money there.
Paulina's also so used. She's probably at a point in her career that she's done so many years in cross-country mountain biking that they only do about 8 to 10 World Cups, I think, in a season and Worlds. So I think her body must be so used to just like going super hard and then having a big rest and going super hard and having a big rest, because those cross-country races are really intense. So maybe she just knows that that's what works for her. It's kind of safe, maybe. It's not only safe in the way that you're reducing risk for crashes, but it's maybe safe in the way that they know how to manage her body and her form as well. So that's just also a thought for Pauline's calendar.
I do wonder if this calendar for Pauline and just like how she approached the Tour last year and how that's going to impact women's cycling in the long run. We've always seen specialization in women's cycling, but never to the extent of the men. And I wonder if this is going to push women's cycling and teams to specialize their riders, to want their riders to specialize in a certain aspect. I think we'll always have riders like Wiebes, who is a phenomenal sprinter, but isn't interested in being like she is a pure sprinter, but she's not. Like, she doesn't want to be only good at sprinting. She also wants to test herself in other races and see where she shakes up in something like Omloop, or I would expect she would absolutely love to be in the finale of Flanders, like stuff like that. But I wonder if more specialization, targeted specialization is something that's coming for the women's side of the sport, the way that the racing is going and the way that riders like Pauline are so specifically targeting races. And if other riders want to compete, if they will need to specialize, because they'll need to be as good a climber as Pauline to take her in the Tour.
It's an interesting point, and I think we could have a whole separate episode on it. I think where we stand right now, the short answer is probably no for this point in time. I would say if you look at some of the top tier teams, they probably all do have that one rider who is on the highest salary. They're getting the biggest results and can probably be more targeted and specialized. But I would say one, maximum two riders. Pauline on Visma and Vos. Again, considering Vos's age, she's now getting close to 40. So even speaking with her manager, they said that they want to be careful with how much she races, and she knows what works for her now, and she doesn't need to do too much racing, and they don't expect that of her. Because when she does show up to a race, we know how good Vos is. And if she's targeting something, chances are she's going to be on that podium. I would say Kim Lecourt's Pinard's program will be a little more specialized, nowhere near as specialized as Pauline, because she's still relatively new and wants to win a lot of races. But yeah, I don't think teams have the means yet. Budget is a huge thing. So whilst they can afford maybe one rider at a super high salary, they also need those riders to be able to be out there winning races, because that's what they're paying them for.
Are there any other storylines of the spring that you guys are keeping an eye on? Underarching themes?
I thought of one today, and it kind of ties back into our conversation about where SD works at, really. And I think that we're probably going to see some good Kopecky again, but the storylines that I'm going to be looking forward to is who's the next Bredewald. And in my mind, that's Marta Lark. I'm really interested to see her trajectory this year. I think she's got a little bit of a golden ticket, actually, because she's got the talent. They've recognized that. She seems like she's jumped up a level. She's racing really well, and she looks hungry. She looks like she's going to take every single opportunity that presents itself. And if something happens to Kopecky or Wiebes or anyone for that matter on that team, I think someone like Marta is just right there in the wings. She knows the lines. She's been prepping. So yeah, I think that we're going to see a new star emerge from that team this year. And I think it's Marta.
I mean, I think that they could lean on Bredewald a little bit more as a leader in the team and allow Marta to step up into the position that Bredewald has had for the last couple of years. Like, I think they're in a position now where Bredewald has proved herself and she should be a leader, and they could kind of reshuffle the structure of the team to allow that. And you're right. Like, there was a solid 20 minutes where I thought that Locke was going to win Hageland when Little Trek was pulling it back and it got within 10 seconds, and then everything kind of fell apart and that gap got back up to 20 seconds. And I was like, oh, for sure, Marta's got this win. And it came back together in the end. But I think that also leads into another topic we didn't really talk about, and I don't think we need to dive into it like too deep, but that in both of the races this weekend, Little Trek was really nowhere to be seen. And they're a team that we really like. They've been so good in the past, and I think every year I'm just expecting them to be back to that where they were. And again, at the opening weekend, this weekend, they were nowhere. And for Hageland, a lot of that had to do with a crash. Balsamo was kind of taken out for the finale, and she was the one that they were really leaning on. And they looked really good before that.
She crashed twice, I think, in that race. And I think she crashed the day before in Newsblad. That sucks.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
and the crash at Newsblad, like they were one of the teams impacted by that crash at Newsblad. But part of it I think was luck, but it's also like at a certain point, like the bad luck begets bad luck. They've just compounded on themselves like every single race. And I don't know what they can do at this point anymore. I talked to Strade yesterday, and she said that the team is really, really strong, and they went through this rebuilding phase, and everything kind of just needs to come together, and that they're like 2 races away from doing that. But which 2 races? When is it going to click for them? Because it's such a bummer not to see them featuring in the races. When you look at the riders that they have on paper, you'd think that they would be up there.
I think that's exactly it, and that's what was coming to mind when you were just speaking. Is this rebuilding phase? And I like to think of it as the core groups within teams. You have a core group of riders within a team that basically are like the glue that holds everything together. And if we think of Little Trek formerly, that was Ellen Van Dyke, Lizzie Deignan, Loretta Hanson, Strade,
Elisa
Longo Borghini, and Ellen Van Dyke. There was like 6 core riders or something like that. And
Lucinda Brand,
Lucinda, if you have that core group within a team, it doesn't matter which riders are coming in and out. As long as the core is strong, I think that's like the foundation, right? They had such a big change last year, to Strade's point, I guess, that they're trying to figure it out and rebuild and figure out how these different pieces on the chessboard work together. And that takes time. And I think they're still searching because, as you said, on paper, man, they have a strong team. And I think we'll see fantastic things from Niamh Fisher-Black in the climbing races. It's just, again, figuring it all out. And when it finally clicks, then you'll see the momentum just continues to build. So I hope that comes sooner rather than later.
I love this team. So I mean, they have so many incredible human beings on the team that I want to see them succeed,
Mm-hmm.
We love good people at this podcast.
Hey, you never know. Maybe it will click at Strade.
Oh man, can you imagine Niamh Fisher-Black winning Strade? That'd be amazing.
I don't see it.
I would cry.
I don't see it. It would be amazing, but I don't quite see it.
That's the thing is, like, when I look at the team and I think about who could win Strade, like, there's like 3 riders that could come second or third. And I think that's their problem, is that they have really, really strong riders that, like, for Niamh, I could see her landing on the podium of the Tour this year, but winning Strade is maybe just out of reach when she's up against someone with a kick like
Vollering,
Longo Borghini or Vollering.
I'm really excited. This is probably a good segue to the race that's coming up on Saturday. I love this race. I love everything about it, all the storylines that come out of it. But yeah, I think we're going to see Elisa Longo Borghini, which is super exciting. We know she's in fantastic form. And you don't know how the race is going to play out, but if they come to that final climb and we do have those favorites, who's going to be the one that's just that little bit better or smarter going over the top? And we know Demi Vollering is in super, super good form. Kasia Niewiadoma as well in really good shape. So it will be interesting to see other riders we haven't seen this weekend or got unlucky, how they're going to show up on Saturday.
Oh man, but if it's Elisa and Demi coming into that climb together and they're able to match each other's pace,
man,
I can see Elisa just putting Demi right in the barriers.
Yeah.
And being able to outsprint her to the line. Elisa's so much, like, she's got so much race experience. It's like she's won races before purely by the experience that she has, and now she has the form to match it, which is an amazing prospect. Yeah, like, it makes me so excited for every race that Elisa's going to line up for. But yeah, Strade coming up this weekend, one of the best races on the calendar. I'm going to do a full preview on the site later this week with a course breakdown and breakdown of the start list, which we don't have yet, but we know that, all the big names will be there. We know that Demi will be there, Eliza, Voss, Pauline. It's going to be a really great race. The one rider who's missing is Marlon Reusser, who pulled this from her calendar. She's not back to 100% after the crash at UAE Tour, so we're not going to see her at Strade, but hopefully she's back soon, because she's another rider who animates the race. So really looking forward to Strade, and check back into Escape Collective for a preview on that later this week.
And I'll be commentating, so listen on
Yay!
SBS if you're in
Woohoo!
Australia, and if you're not, then use a VPN. It's free.
Yay! That's great news. I love it when you're commentating races. Feels like I'm just kind of a listener on the podcast.
Yep.
All right. Well, we will be back next week to talk about Strade. And yeah, if you haven't followed us on Instagram, we are on Instagram, Wheel Talk the Pod. Find us for clips from the podcast, amazing photos from the Grubers, all the good stuff. Follow us on Instagram. We're there.
Sessions.
Oh, right.
Can't forget, Abby. Some listeners
is
wait for this moment.
Loren, what's your obsession?
Well, it took me a long time. This is not the obsession, but I'll tell people. I finally finished that whole series of A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh,
and my obsession is finally, it took, some of those books are long, I have to say, and I only read in the evening, so that's kind of my problem, is like it's a short period of time, and if I'm super tired, I just fall asleep. But I found this website in Belgium called My Good Books or something, and it's a secondhand bookshop online, basically. And so I've been going through that bookshop, and they have a lot of English books. I accidentally ordered one in Dutch yesterday, which was very disappointing when it arrived. And I was like, this is too complex of a book for me to read in Dutch. I can only read like children's books in Dutch. So yeah, that's a bit of my obsession is, scrolling through this bookshop, and I'm trying to order a whole bunch of old books, classics. Something I'm trying to educate myself better on is Islam, because I just want to understand that religion, and why people have such negative connotations towards that religion. So I bought a book called Muhammad by, I think her name is Karen Armstrong. So I'm just starting that, and that's basically the life of the Prophet Muhammad. So that's my obsession this week.
Did they ship to Spain?
I don't know, but you could order a bunch and send them here.
I have a really hard time. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I cannot get books in English here except on Amazon, and I don't want to use Amazon.
Yeah.
So,
and this is, secondhand. So I'm like buying secondhand stuff for the kids.
Do they buy the books back? Or do you?
Yeah. Yep. So,
awesome.
but I do want to, we just got new cupboard shelving in our living room. And then I thought I had a lot of books, and it's a really big cupboard. And I was like, wow, we really don't have that many books, because I buy so many books on my e-reader that I'm like, I'm going to start buying books that you want to live on the shelf too, things that you'll revisit, or so that's what I'm doing. Oh, and I finished Harry's Room as well.
Great obsession.
So that's exciting.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Connor's story on SNL. I mean, it all just comes back to heated rivalry, doesn't it? But he was really great on SNL. SNL, a common obsession for me and Georgie, and does not always hit the mark, but Connor was really fantastic this week. Even if the writing for the sketches wasn't amazing, he was incredible. I just cannot wait to see what he does with his career.
Oh yeah, he's
been all over my
definitely
my
obsessed
algorithm.
with him. He seems very talented and just a very easy to watch personality. He looks like he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah, him and Hudson both are just great. Big fans.
I just googled him, and the Reddit thread is Connor story stuns for SNL. It's a whole thread on him.
He was great. He was really, really great. And there were some really great jokes about the whole debacle with the men's and women's hockey teams. In his opening monologue, he brought out the Hughes brothers. And then Megan Keller, who scored the winning goal for the women in the gold medal match, and Hillary Knight also both came out and made some digs at the men's team, subtle digs, which was really great. And yeah, and they made custom PWHL jerseys for Hudson and Connor. It was really cute.
Cool.
So a combination of obsessions, heated rivalry, women's hockey. I was in heaven.
I want a women's hockey jersey.
Me too, man. They're all sold out, at least the teams that I support. Although you could just be a fan of the PWHL instead of picking a team. I've loved like all of the people on the internet being like, which PWHL team should I support? And you can just be a fan of the league. I don't know if they do like PWHL jerseys, but yeah, I am just patiently waiting for my Seattle jersey with Hillary Knight's name on the back to be restocked.
How cool is that, actually, to think?
Freaking cool. It's so cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Gracie?
My obsession, I'm wearing the t-shirt.
I love it.
Nice. Yeah.
Went to see G-Flip in Australia last Friday, and they were awesome, and they were supported by the Beaches, who are also awesome. Like, both acts just were better live, which is super fun because not everyone's better live. Sometimes people are worse live, but G-Flip was better live. So much energy and talent, and the Beaches were just so fun. I was already a little bit obsessed with the Beaches. I think they just went viral a few years back on socials, and their songs are so catchy. And yeah, G-Flip's obviously a legend. So yeah, Kimberly and I went, and that was actually our first concert that we've ever been together, which is amazing because we've been together for a while now, and we've been through a lot of other highs and lows, you could say, of life. So that was a really nice little highlight. So I had a lot of fun. It was an awesome crowd. It was in Australia that very same night. Down in Sydney was our Mardi Gras, our gay and lesbian and all of the queer community Mardi Gras. But the G-Flip concert was like a mini Mardi Gras. It was like the coolest crowd. It was so many queer people and mums with their little girls, and just so many women. So it just felt like so safe and loving and authentic, and it was just like very affirming to be in that kind of space, especially with what's happening in the world. So that was a big highlight, to just be in that space for a few hours enjoying some really talented people.
And where was it, Gracie, the concert?
We're in Brisbane, yeah. So
in Brisbane.
Yeah. So
Nice.
we made a bit of a trip down there and made a night of it, and we even had some free babysitting from the grandparents, which is also awesome.
Aw, that's so nice that you got a night away. Hannes and I are doing that on Sunday. It's his birthday on International Women's Day. And I've booked just in Bruges. My friend has started a luxury B&B, so it's really, really nice. So we're going to go there for a night. He doesn't know about it. And then a fun thing that I'm doing, I'm catching up with Kate and Alexa in Amsterdam on Saturday night.
Oh, that'll be so fun.
So it's going to be a really jam-packed weekend for me, which doesn't happen often. So I'm going to soak it all in.
Yeah, can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps us up for the week. Thanks everyone so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
This episode was produced, edited, and mixed by Will Jones at Red Bricks Media.